he sat in, Dr. Crowther's office, was cluttered almost to a terminal condition. The four walls were hidden by painted shelves built all the way to the ceiling, and was stuffed with the tools of the physician's profession. Books of every size and shape bulged from many of the shelves, along with manuscripts, newspapers, and periodicals, all apparently in no order. Other shelves held boxes, packages, and tubes, large and small. Some had labels on the outside, and others displayed merely a blank face to the world. Two long tables flanked the shelves on the north and east side of the room, covered with flasks, knives, several saws, some still showing traces of blood. Forceps, probes, retractors, and dressings of all sorts were thrown haphazardly across the surfaces, mixed with a variety of other instruments used by physicians. "But, Doctor, breaking the law, are you? Isn't it against the law to sell bodies?" "Against the law? Of course it's against the law, and worse than that, it's expensive." Dr. Crowther spoke so rapidly that only long practice had enabled Rees to understand him at times. "Oh, it's dear, these corpses, but a man's got to learn the body boy." Once again he came to a halt. Using his pipe as a pointer, he jabbed it emphatically toward his young friend. "Some so-called physicians do all their practicing on live patients. Why, every man makes a mistake, doctors no less than others. If you make a mistake on a corpse, it's no matter. But when you're cutting into a living human being, there's careful you must be." Dr. Crowther continued his diatribe, which was his manner of teaching. At times he was like a butterfly, fluttering from idea to idea with confusing rapidity. At other times he was more like a bull, charging straight forward, as if he would implant the principles of medicine in his young pupil by brute force. Sometimes he would even catch Rees by the hair and shake the young man's head back and forth, as if that somehow assisted the importation of knowledge. Finally, he picked up the bottle on the table, poured himself a tumbler full of pale amber ale, and sitting down, gulped at it thirstily as he looked at young Kenyon with a steady gaze. "Maybe I'll let you watch while I dissect this one, if I decide to buy it." The idea of the high price of corpses seemed to overwhelm him. "It's shocking how corpses have risen, shocking indeed. The villain had the face to ask me 4 guineas. I told him in no uncertain terms that his greed was going to stifle science. But I'll pay it, I suppose. I need a good, fresh liver to show you, Rees." Dr. Crowther gulped down several swallows of ale, then studied the young man who sat across from him. They had become good friends over the years, and Dr. Crowther had literally watched young Kenyon from the time he was born, for he had brought him into the world. He lived only a short distance away from the Kenyon family and had been their family physician for years. There was satisfaction in the old man's eyes as he took in the lean figure of Rees Kenyon. Rees was 20 now, and his looks were deceptive. He was slightly over 6'3", and was so lanky that he looked weak. His hands were marvellous, long fingers, tendons standing out like steel cords, calluses from his work in the shipbuilding trade. In that long, lean body Crowther knew there was a strength that was surprising. The face of Rees Kenyon was homely, not handsome in the least. His eyes were deep-set, and his cheeks slightly sunken, giving him a craggy look older than his years. His mouth was wide and mobile, with a vertical line at each corner. High cheekbones and a high-domed forehead lent a look of strength, and his hair was coarse and coal-black, as were his eyebrows, and his beard, if he had ever decided to grow one. His hair was thick and roughly cut, but his eyes were the only features that could have been called strictly attractive. They were dark blue, so dark that they